My guest on this episode shares how courage, authenticity, and data storytelling have shaped her work as a Black woman in public health. From shifting away from a lifelong dream of becoming a medical doctor to founding her consulting business, she reflects on the moments when she chose to act despite fear and how she continues to build a career rooted in purpose and advocacy. She invites us into her journey as a data storyteller, entrepreneur, and mentor, offering insights on navigating systems that weren't designed for people like her, and the power of showing up as herself unapologetically. She also speaks candidly about learning she is on the autism spectrum and how that knowledge has helped her honor her strengths, set boundaries, and advocate for herself. You're listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast, episode 13. To all the courageous Black, Indigenous, and women of color leading in public health, this podcast is your space to turn up the volume on your courage. This space centers your voice. This space celebrates your passion. This space amplifies your courage. My role? To listen, to amplify, and to stand with you in the fight for equity. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock. I'm an epidemiologist, consultant, the founder and CEO of Courageous Public Health, and the host of the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Each week, I have unfiltered conversations with BIPOC women in public health about the challenges you face, the power you hold, and your vision for the future. We talk about the authenticity, vulnerability, and courage that you bring, not just to public health, but to every part of your lives. Because courage is about action, even in fear. It's about taking up space, leading unapologetically, refusing to be erased, and knowing you never have to do it alone. If you're ready to turn up the volume on your courage, if you're ready to take up space, if you're ready to smash the racist, patriarchal, cisnormative, heteronormative, ableist, capitalistic systems, then let's dive into this brand new episode. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I'd like to start by introducing myself if you're brand new to the podcast, or reintroducing myself if you're a returning listener. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock, and I am the CEO of the Courageous Public Health Consulting Firm, where we support public health organizations through workshop design and facilitation and speaking engagements. I am so excited to introduce you to my guest on this episode. Let me formally introduce her, and then we'll jump right into our conversation. Dr. Zenobia Bryant Antoine is a dedicated public health professional and epidemiologist with a decade of specialized experience. She holds a PhD in public health with a concentration in epidemiology and is passionate about advancing health equity and social justice. Dr. Bryant Antoine has extensive experience in quantitative research, statistical analysis, literature reviews, and survey design, contributing to numerous publications in her field. As a founder of Black Health, Black Wealth, she leverages her skills to promote health equity, emphasizing that good Black mental, physical, and financial health are true forms of wealth. Dr. Bryant Antoine has significant experience overseeing scholar programs and managing budgets while fostering the development of underrepresented talent. Dr. Bryant Antoine is recognized as a dedicated public health leader with a proven track record in program development, strategic initiative alignment, funding acquisition, and multidisciplinary team leadership. Let's connect my conversation with Dr. Zenobia Bryant Antoine right now. I am very excited to welcome to the Courageous Public Health Podcast, Dr. Zenobia Bryant Antoine. Hi, Zenobia.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you here. It's been a little while since we have connected. So I'm really excited to reconnect with you.
Yes, I'm excited too.
Awesome. So I want to start by giving you a chance to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thank you. I am Dr. Zenobia Bryant Antoine. I am a little over a year into my marriage. I have a degree in public health with a concentration in epidemiology. And I own a public health consulting business called Black Health, Black Wealth. And one of the things that when asked to introduce myself, I always say I'm a data storyteller. I take the numbers and help them create a story. Sometimes the numbers, especially when you are deal with a lot of numbers like quantitative analysis, we often highlight the numbers and what they mean, which is great, but we can't forget that the numbers tell a story. Like, there are real people who have provided these answers to this survey, and they're telling a story. So I'm a data storyteller that strives to bridge the gap. That's my quick answer of my introduction.
That's a great introduction. And I really appreciate that you're a data storyteller. I mean, I also feel like a data storyteller. And I also, had a concentration in epidemiology. So we have that in common. And I have to back up to the name of your business, Black Health, Black Wealth. I think it's such a powerful business name. I've always been really struck by it. I wonder if you could tell our listeners where that name comes from.
So yeah, Black Health, Black Wealth, the mission really is optimal wealth and true health equity for Black and Brown women. And we strive to build peace, hope, love, and light for within, and empowerment for facing the without. The name really comes from my personal idea, my personal value, personal moral that true wealth is found in health, and that is mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, physical health, financial health. All of it is intertwined, and that is really what helps build, a whole person that is rich in wealth.
I love that. So, I mean, yeah, that's just fantastic. Great name.
Thank you.
I mean, I also love your names, Zenobia. It's just really fun to say. And so,
thank you. It also means life. Zenobia means life, by the way.
Oh, it does. Oh, yes. I didn't know that. Okay, that's super cool. That's super cool. Okay, so let's dive into the questions. So I always start by reminding our listeners that bravery is taking action without fear, while courage is taking action despite fear. So I would love to have you share some experiences from your professional life, from your personal life, where you've acted courageously.
Oh, that's a very good question. And if I were to really think about it, I'm sure I have so many examples.
I'm sure you do.
The very first thing that stands out is when I had to make a decision about my career path. So I went to Emory University, which is a historically white institution in Atlanta, Georgia. I majored in neuroscience, and I was on the pre-med track. I was gung-ho about becoming a medical doctor. And I'd done the whole process, primary applications, secondary applications, interviews, got waitlisted at my top choice. And at the last minute, they decided not to offer me a spot. And so at that point, my life dream, it was shattered. Like, what do I do? Like, this is the only thing I've dreamed of doing, right? Is becoming a medical doctor.
Yeah.
And so it took a while, but I always say public health found me. I had a family friend who was at the time studying at Morehouse. She was studying public health there. And she was like, I really think you should look into public health. I think it'd be a great fit for you. Mm-hmm. Now, when I was in school, public health was still, it wasn't a new field, but it was just like blossoming into what it is today. I might be aging myself a little bit, but it wasn't as well known as it is today, right?
Yeah. Do you hear, I hear some like, okay, I was hearing like music in the background, like almost like an ice
Oh,
cream truck.
sorry.
Was it? It's totally fine.
The ice cream truck was
It
coming
was the
through.
ice cream truck? Okay, that's total. Okay, yes.
And
I
I'm like, I should have my earphones, and they think they're
no.
downstairs in my office, and so
Real life is when the ice cream truck drives by and like impacts your podcast interview.
I
That's
was just
real
gonna
life.
roll with it. I was like, I'm sure she
I
is.
love it. Roll with it. Roll with it. Okay, keep going.
Okay. And so, she suggested that I look into the public health field, and I did, look into it. And at the time, I had heard about it, but people used it as a stepping stone for like nursing school or nurse
Yeah.
practitioner, other careers. Being a doctor, you heard of a lot of doctors, physicians having a master's in public health, not necessarily a PhD in public health. And so that was probably the first real that comes to mind. The real courageous step was to deviate from this plan, right? That I'd like literally spent a good portion of my life working towards. I'm very type A, very goal oriented. So even in elementary school, after, and I never had like, I don't remember ever having frivolous dreams at elementary school. Like in kindergarten, I was like, I want to be a librarian because I love to read. So I was never one of those that were like, oh, I want to be a fairy or something. Like they were very, but once I settled on doctor, that's what I, had worked towards. So to deviate from that plan, and then once I got into my program, realizing that it was such a perfect fit that I had no desire to even try to go back to medical school. Cause, I would talk to people and they're like, oh, you can still go back to medical school. Like you can, get your PhD or whatever and still achieve the other goal. And I was like, no, I think I'm fine. Like this is where I'm supposed to be. Um,
Yeah. This is it.
And then the other example would have to be when I started my business. I um, had actually gotten laid off from a job, a government job in 2020. And this is like during COVID, like the height of COVID. Nobody knows what's going on. George Floyd so there was just so much unrest. Quite similar to now, but that's neither here nor there. But I remember talking to my brother about like just our careers. He's an architect. He has his own business and had started his own business a few years prior as an architect. And I was just like, well, I'll work this job, blah, blah, blah. This the general what people do when you get laid off and you're looking for another position and you're looking at how it fits your needs and blah, blah, blah. Right. And he was like, but you're too talented to keep giving your skills away. And I never saw myself as an entrepreneur, so much so that even in college, I never took a business class. Like, I took economics in high school because I had to take it to graduate for my major. And I started out as a biology major and I switched to neuroscience because I had more freedom in the neuroscience major and I didn't have to take so many required classes. Like they gave us a list and were like, you have to take 5 of these 10, right? So I was like, oh, I got a lot more freedom. Like I don't have to take evolution or whatever. And so I wasn't getting a minor in business. Didn't even, and I had friends in my program who would like take a business elective, or I like wanted nothing to do with business at all. Now I kick myself because a lot of it I've had to learn on the
Yeah.
fly because I now have a business. But so I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. I was always like, some people are made to be entrepreneurs and other people are just made to work a regular 9 to 5 and live life. Boy, was I wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he was just like, but what you're doing is you're basically giving away your legacy because you're doing all this work, you're putting all this work, time, and effort into something. And then basically either if something, God forbid, something happens to you or they let you go, like what happened is all erased. They find somebody to fill the slot, or sometimes you don't even get the credit for the work you're doing, depending on rules and regulations and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And so that's really how the whole idea came about. We started, we're having conversations about what would it look like if I had a business using my degree? How would that work? Like, all these dreams that were just floating around in my head. And so then we started throwing around phrases and names, and he said, Black health is our wealth. And that's how we shortened it to Black health, Black wealth. So I give my brother really the credit for helping me birth this vision. And then just continuing to see it through. It's always an act of courage for me. I am a bona fide introvert. I say I don't like people. That is not true. I love people. I just have had to learn how to take people in doses that fit my personality and nervous system. So if you put me in a huge crowd, depending on the day and what's going on, I probably will clam up. But one or two, three people at a time, I can maneuver fairly well. But to be a business owner and have to attend events, people ask me to speak. And people are like, "Oh, you love public speaking." I do not. I just happen to be good at it. Apparently,
Yeah.
people tell me I'm good at it, but that's not something I like to do. So part of it is being like when I sign up to attend community events. And recently, through therapy, I learned that I am on the autism spectrum, which has a whole nother caveat. So, like I get really bad noise sensitivity, which makes sense why I don't like crowds, because I start hearing all the conversations at once and then I can't focus, right? But to keep showing up, and people often ask like, how do you challenge yourself? And what I do is I give myself permission to leave if it does not feel right. I tell myself, unless something happens where I'm not feeling well or I'm having to deal with other stuff, because life happens. But I tell myself, show up, and if it's a 2-hour event, after 30 minutes to an hour, if it's just not right, you just can't get the flow, it's okay to leave. And 9 times out of 10, what ends up happening once I get there and meet myself in that challenge, even if I do leave, I end up making a good connection, or before I know it, I've stayed the whole time. So for me, showing up for my business and in my personal life on a daily basis is my act of courage, because my husband, he's like, he really affirms me, and he sees stuff in me that I don't always see in myself, right? And so I actually, prime example, I had to attend a luncheon this week, and it was raining, so I was just like, I don't know, I'm probably not going to stay the whole time. So after the fact, I was telling him, I was like, I was in my bag, like they had called on me to explain what I did, and just the feedback I was getting. And he was like, yeah, I've seen the growth a long time ago. Like, you really are starting to step out and to just show up in ways that I know is typically hard for you. And so just being a Black woman business owner in my skin, with all these nuances, for me is sometimes like fighting the thoughts of, do I really fit? Does this matter? And continuing to show up anyway when it feels like it doesn't matter. It's just oftentimes inspiring when you really begin to see the type of impact. And you don't always see it right away, right? Sometimes it's later on down the road and people come back around, they're like, oh, you did this thing and it really made an impact, or you said this thing and it really stuck with me. So I think that's all the examples I have right now. And I don't even know if I answered the question. I feel like I took a couple
You
turns.
definitely,
But
no. You definitely answered the question. You definitely answered the question. I want to just make a few comments. I mean, one is you use the phrase life lifes. And I use that phrase too. I always talk about life is lifing,
Yeah.
you know? And what are you going to do? Like, it's just life is life. And so I appreciate that we share that phrase. We have that in common. That's a great phrase. And yeah, just I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing, about being in therapy, getting a diagnosis of being on the autism spectrum. Like that's, I really appreciate that level of, of just being open. And I can imagine that not having recognized that as part of yourself before can also could make things really challenging. And it's nice, like now you sort of have that information and you get to decide
Yeah.
how you move forward
It
with
was a
that.
light bulb moment. Like
Yeah.
when it, like talking to my therapist, and one of the things she really affirmed, because sometimes there, in the healthcare field in general, they're just barriers, different levels, different ways. And so oftentimes people, especially those that look like me, there are so many barriers to even getting a diagnosis, right? And so we were discussing, she was like, I have these references. I can refer you to try to get in for a formal assessment. However, the wait list is yay long. Like, and there were some things I was dealing with that I was trying to figure it out. And she said that there are also these assessments that you can take, and self-diagnosis does count. Like, which you don't often hear, right?
Yeah.
And as a researcher, I'm oftentimes like already like researching, right?
Right.
I had to go to the doctor before, like the OB, for different issues. And I'm the type of patient that walks in with the printout. I've got the highlights, because that's just me. And so it hasn't always been accepted. Like, no,
Yeah.
I understand why they say, they kind of frown on it because you don't want to pull the first thing off of Google or WebMD because it's going to tell you got cancer and you're dying. Like, I get that. But if I've taken the time to really delve into this and I'm showing you like the receipts, then why is it not that what I'm saying counts? And so for her to affirm that, and I had taken all the different assessments, and each time they came back there, she was like, yeah, I can refer you, but I'm confident in saying from what you've told me in our sessions and looking at these assessments, you fall on the spectrum. And it was a light bulb moment, right? And it was funny because I went back and told my mom, and there's different stereotypes and different things in my community. And thankfully, my parents, they've come a long way. We haven't always seen eye to eye, but they are always very supportive. So even when I started going to therapy and seeing a psychiatrist, my mom didn't understand.
Yeah.
But she's, come around. She teases me all the time. She's like, you say everybody needs a therapist. And I'm like, because they do. And you do too.
I see that too.
Yeah. So I went back to tell her about like it's a good chance I'm on the spectrum. And that's why we call it a spectrum, because you can fall in so many different places and ways. And her first thing was like, well, you graduated top of your class and you're brilliant. And I was like, that's literally a symptom, Mom. The fact that I hyper focus and like I have like these niche pieces of information. I hate to break it to you. I know you're trying to make it sound better. That's literally
that's part of it.
Yeah. It was so cute and funny at the same time. I'm like, yeah, that's part of the problem, which is why it was just, I look back over my life and I'm like, this is, a lot of it makes sense. Like,
yeah.
So it was challenging at the time, but now to have that piece of information, and I don't look at it as, sometimes it has a negative connotation. I remember, telling people, especially in my church community, and they'd be like, oh, you don't have to accept that. And I'm like, I'm not saying it as a bad thing. I'm saying it because it gives me insight into why I move and operate in the world the way I do. Like it's a part of who I am. And it just like, that makes sense as to why noises are loud to me and it's not to y'all. And I'm sitting there looking like, y'all don't hear that? That's not bothering y'all because it's just how I show up. So
it's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that. Oh, moms. Yeah.
She's my biggest supporter though. Like, even if she don't have the name of the business right, she's telling somebody about it.
Yes.
So
yes.
I finally just sent her the website link and I was like, just save this so they can just go to the website, please.
That's great. That is great. So, okay, I want to move to the next question, but I feel like you have definitely touched on this, but I want to see if you have any other thoughts about it, about claiming and expressing your power, and especially in spaces that may not always welcome it. Because I think this is such an important piece, that, I want to hear your thoughts about that. And also just in terms of like expressing and embodying your power as a Black woman doing the work of public health.
That's a good question. And I want to preface this by saying that I fully understand and appreciate that not everyone has the privilege that I have in this way, in that I have learned to show up as me unapologetically. It's been a long road. It's a hard process. And also, not everyone has the privilege in that I am blessed to now work. Even though I have a business, I still have a full-time job. And I am blessed to be able to advocate for myself and to have full autonomy over my schedule, in that I don't often have to show up in ways that are uncomfortable to me. There are still some nuances. I can set parameters around how I show up, being that I often, most of the time I work from home. I only have to go, sorry.
Nope.
There it goes. I'm so sorry.
We'll just take that right out.
I was like, hopefully I can get through this without sneezing.
Yeah, it's all good.
But I can set parameters on how I work, right?
Yeah.
Point being, I have my calendar blocked off on Monday mornings and Fridays. I don't take meetings on Mondays before 1:00, and I don't take any meetings on Fridays. My boss is such a phenomenal person. And she's a godsend, but she understands that I work differently. So she might sit in the same place. She might be on the computer at 7 and work straight till 3:30. Whereas there are some days I may not hit my stride until 2:00 in the evening, but she knows that my work will get done, because 9 times out of 10 at that point, I'm going to work to 8, 9 o'clock at night, because again, I hyper focus.
Yeah.
So there's just so many, but to get to that point, I had to become fully comfortable in who I was and who I am, and not try to show up as anybody else. I cannot be anybody else, because when I do that, I am robbing the world of who I am created to be. And that means that there's a void that's left, because I am not showing up as the person that I was intended to show up as. And so that's how I embody my power. Quietly, intentionally, strategically, but
yeah. But there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, let me. Okay. So I'm really excited to hear from you about the future and about looking ahead. So I want to ask you about your vision, and I'm thinking, in terms of your vision for public health, your vision for BIPOC communities, um, how you see Black women, women of color shaping these futures. And then I also really want to hear about your personal vision for your own future. But let's start with, vision for public health. And
So honestly, some days it's hard to really have a forward facing vision right now.
yep,
Ideally, I would, this is just me trying to survive the current climate, in that sometimes you need to dismantle systems, even though they are unwelcome, to rebuild them in a way that um, completely eliminates all barriers and whatever for all people. It seems like, especially institutionally or systematically, because these systems are so huge, we've been trying to do it big, brick by brick. And so the optimist in me is like, well, maybe if these are all dismantled, when we get through this phase, it's an opportunity to completely rebuild it in a way that serves all people everywhere. I don't know if that is a thing, if that will happen. It's just me trying to make sense out of the chaos. I am encouraged by the fact that I've seen collectively, across the board, the movement of Black women resting and being like, this is not our problem. Because oftentimes we feel like we need to be the first in the front lines to fix it,
yeah,
even when we didn't create it.
yeah,
And I, like, for women who look like me, I'm encouraged in that more and more we're taking control of our well-being, mental, emotional, spiritual, and it looks different for everybody. But the fact that we are learning to control what we can control in front of us, be it, our health, the health of our family members, focusing on breaking generational curses and, healing from the generational trauma and making it better for our legacy. So I don't have an easy answer right now. Had we maybe recorded this 6 months ago, or, well, oh gosh, we're in May, so maybe eight,
yes,
9 months ago, I might would have had a different
yeah,
answer.
fair, totally fair.
But it's hard,
Yeah,
but we can do hard things because we've done it before. So
yes. Oh my goodness.
that's my answer.
No, and you know what? I mean, that is, I think this is not the way that we want to dismantle the current systems. Like, this is not how we wanted to tear things down.
No.
They need to be torn down. This is not the way. And can we still create something better from this? I believe that we can as well. I mean, I am optimistic. But boy, it's really hard to sit through the process that's happening right now. Like, it's just really hard to, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and this is, from my perspective as a white woman, like, it's uncomfortable and it's hard, and I can, but I also really appreciate that you said that women of color are starting to rest. And I have noticed that, actually. I've noticed that on LinkedIn. I've noticed, like, more conversations around women, like, among women of color, about this importance of rest. And so I hadn't necessarily consciously thought of it in the way that you just described, but now I have, like, a better understanding of why that's so critical. And so, yes, that is a movement that it's exciting to see that. I think it's exciting to see that. So what about your vision for your own future, Dr. Zenobia?
I started out by saying I consider myself a data storyteller. It is important for me that the stories of the real people are not lost in the numbers.
Yes.
And also that information makes it back to the communities.
Yes.
So for me, I have, some would call it a twofold business model, because I do public health consulting. And that's just a fancy way of saying I support organizations with program evaluation, data analysis, literature reviews, because what all these things do is, like, a literature review highlights, it's just a summary of the literature that's available. But what it does is highlight the gap so that you know when you're going after funding or you're trying to provide evidence of why a program is necessary, you have looked at the available information to say that this is a gap, this is an identified need, and this is what we're doing to fill it. The data and program evaluation says it supports your program's impact. So it's saying that if it's a baseline, we have surveyed the community. These are the needs that they told us that they are facing. And this is how the program will fill the need. Because what you don't want to do is go into a community and not have assess their needs and interests. A lot of times as researchers, we think we know it all, and we go into a community and tell them what they need instead of letting them tell us what the need is, right?
Yeah.
Prime example is going into a community and saying, oh, you know, more people in your community are obese. You need to lose weight. Here's a nutrition plan. But their need is, well, we don't have access to affordable, healthy foods. So you've given them a whole plan, but you haven't really addressed the problem. Or it's, we know we need to eat healthier. We know we need to eat these types of foods, but we're having problem finding jobs that we can sustain a living on.
Right.
Right. So,
and of course, your program doesn't have the impact. Like it
doesn't. And that's why we do the community partnerships.
Yes.
Partnering with the community. Don't leave them out of the whole process. Carry them through the process. But this is where the evaluation and data pieces come in. Not just, I'm a huge advocate of not doing evaluations just for the sake of saying we did them, but really going through the information and saying, what does it say? What does it mean? Because a lot of times we'll do, and this is why I'm a data storyteller.
Right.
So you might do have a survey and say, and this is just an example, but how do you feel that the health equity how do you feel that your health department supports? Do you feel like your health department has a focus on health inequities when supporting the community? And you might say, oh, agree, disagree, neutral. And so we'll focus on the fact that 60% said, oh, we agree. But what about the 20% that said they didn't agree? Now, we don't have to get into if it's statistically significant or not, because right now what we're focused on that you surveyed real people and they gave you real answers that said, I am unsatisfied with this component. Why does that matter? Why is it important? Right. And so making that connection for organizations and helping them leverage this information. But what I also do is I mentor young women, specifically women who are in the STEM field. I mentioned earlier I went to Emory University, so I know what it's like to be someone who looks like me in a historically white institution in the STEM program and how rigorous it can be. And for those of you listening, STEM is just science, technology, math, arts. It's oftentimes a very rigorous, hard program to go through. And so I provide that bridge. It's me working with these organizations and institutions to make whatever their focus is better and relevant, but also connecting back to those coming behind me and providing the support that I needed when I was in their shoes, but I did not have. So
So
the
powerful.
vision is just seeing that grow and flourish,
Yeah.
connecting with more organizations and companies who are still committed to making, removing the barriers, who are still committed to making sure that programs are as inclusive as possible, who are still committed to making sure that there is a commitment to serve all people, and who need just help leveraging their data pieces. And people don't know that the data is important if you're going after funding, if you're, just trying to maintain a program in the community. You got to show the impact and why it's necessary. So
Yeah.
my vision for that is just to see it carry that forward. I think that encompasses also my personal vision, because that's
Yeah.
it's all tied together.
That's yeah, that's going to take a lot of time. That takes a lot of time. I mean, these are all like very important things, and so your hyper focus gets probably very useful because there's a lot that you want to do, which is amazing. I love that about you.
Thank you. And I have a wonderful husband who helps me to stop. He'll be like, you gonna put that computer down? Oh, you're right. I should, right? It's 9:30.
Yes. Oh, yes. It's lovely to have partners who,
Yes.
can remind us of that and understand why we are the way we are, why we do the things we do, and also like love us through that, and also give the gentle reminder of like, it's time to rest now. That's good. Thank you so much, Zenobia. This has been such a pleasure to talk to you. I want to ask about the best way for our listeners to connect with you. If they want to connect with you about your business, about your courage, about any of the things we've talked about, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, email is the best way. www.blackhealth. That's my website. But website too will take you to the email, blackhealthblackwealth.org or blackhealthblackwealth@gmail.com. But also you can search Zenobia Bryant on, it might be Antoine now. I think I changed my LinkedIn, but also on LinkedIn.
Great. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll just say another thing is, Zenobia, you talked about loving books and wanting to be a librarian when you were young. And I know your love of books continues. And this is one of the things that we've bonded over and connected over. So if you need I probably shouldn't say this without checking with you first, but I'm like, if you need a good book recommendation, especially about health equity,
it's fine, because I was literally thinking when we started, I should have gone to my downstairs office where the wall-to-wall bookshelf is, so that because I mean I've added plenty of more books since we last talked.
I'm sure that's true.
And my husband also happens to love reading, so that's just a horrible combination in some ways.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Sometimes courage is walking away from a lifelong dream to embrace the path that truly fits. Sometimes courage is starting a business when the world feels uncertain. Sometimes courage is showing up even when every part of you wants to retreat. Dr. Zenobia Bryant Antoine reminds us that true leadership begins with self-knowledge, and that our power comes from honoring who we are exactly as we are. You can connect with Dr. Bryant Antoine on LinkedIn to learn more about her and her courage. All the links to connect with her are on our show notes page for this episode, located on our website, courageouspublichealth.com, under episode 13. Before you return to your day, think of someone in your life who would be moved by this conversation and take a moment to share this episode with them. If you're listening on a podcast app, you can send it via text or share directly to social media. And if you're on our website, the sharing buttons make it easy to spread the word. Thanks so much for being here. Until our next episode, stay courageous. Thank you for listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Visit courageouspublichealth.com to find the show notes for each episode and learn how to connect with us.